SBR Videos is sponsored by Sports Cash System. Click on the link below for more information. Doing some introductory interviews with some of our marquee returning cappers, and one of my favorites is Stephen O. If you remember him from last year, our regular viewers from last year remember Stephen O had a phenomenal record giving us NFL picks in our videos last year. In the heart of the season, he reeled off like 8 or 10 wins in a row, and he's going to be back with us this year. I'm very happy about that. He's got a new company called Event Data Services. That's eventdataservices.com. Stephen O, thanks for being back with us.
Thank you for having me back.
All right, you have anything to say about your phenomenal NFL record last year? You think you can repeat it this year?
I do actually. Not that I'm sure that's a kiss of death, but last year I was actually only spending around 10% of my actual time during the NFL season handicapping games. Mm-hmm. And one reason why I started Event Data Services is because I wanted to see what I could do if I really focused literally 80 to 100% of my time on NFL capping. So I'm really changing the whole business. We're not doing any kind of licensing deals. One big problem I had for the last few years was I would get publicity on our picks on sites like ESPN Insider, but literally millions of people would have access to it. Mm-hmm. And anyone who's trying to deal with this business, you don't want to have, too much information out there. It's good for your ego, but not good for, clients paying good money for your information. So I really do think that with my brand new technology that I've developed in the last 6 months, really, but it's brand new technology that is performing extremely well in all my tests. So I'm really optimistic.
Okay, what do you mean brand new technology? Tell us a little bit about that. Is it a model or what is it?
Yeah, I'm my background was in genetics, and that's where I learned to program. And I programmed these simulations on a play-by-play simulation basis, simulating the games. And I simulated them 10,000 to 20,000 times, depending on the situation. And it determined basically what chance each team has of covering the spread or game going over or under. And in the past, my technology, which was first developed in 2004, it was good at picking overall accuracy, but it wasn't necessarily great at saying, hey, the higher the probability, the more chance you have of winning. Mm-hmm. So in other words, our picks which had a 65% chance of hitting would actually hit at the same rate as the ones hitting 55%, 55% chances. The new Event Data Services simulation model is performing extremely well, so that the higher the probability, good news, the higher the accuracy. It makes our clients, it makes picking games a lot easier. And that's the biggest achievement that we've made.
So what factors go into this model that you've designed? I mean, what inputs do you use?
Well, I use the play-by-play data of the actual games, and I weight them against all the kind of various factors that you would assume are important when talking about the NFL. The biggest thing changed my new technology versus the past was heavily dependent on individual statistical performance. Mm-hmm. So like one example I use, for example, Paul Kruger for Baltimore, had 14 and a half sacks or something like that, and he had a bunch of sacks down the stretch, and he got that huge $40 million contract from Cleveland. And in my past models, a guy like Kruger leaving Baltimore would really hurt the team, right? Because he was individually responsible for a lot of pass pressure and sacks. But my new software is focused on kind of correlation, the impact team players actually have on their team performance. So if you look at it, Kruger's numbers didn't skyrocket until Terrell Suggs, even though he was playing at around 60, 70% healthy. When he came back is when Kruger skyrocketed. Kruger had 1.5 sacks in the first 2 months of the year. So my new software understands when players that actually don't get any statistics. The shutdown corner who no one ever tries to throw a pass against because they're too scared of him, like Deion Sanders back in the day, or the great left tackle that really doesn't have many stats except for no sacks allowed. Players are a fullback, guys that don't necessarily get the fantasy stats. My previous models are very fantasy driven, with a focus on the individual performance, and the gambling accuracy was almost I don't want to say byproduct, but almost a secondary concern versus what the initial model was. My new Event Data Services software is really focused solely on betting accuracy and understanding how players impact and correlate to team performance, and not necessarily what their individual stats mean. Because in football, I actually don't think they mean a lot.
Right. That's fascinating, because one of the big differences between like baseball, for instance, and like basketball or football is that in baseball, the individual stats are very predictive and very meaningful. As you just said very well, in the team sports, the individual stats are less meaningful, and really what you have to go on is it's probably harder to model, a team sport like football.
It is. It's a lot harder. And a few years ago in baseball, I had quadrupled money for clients. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I still find NFL more fun. Call me crazy. I enjoy the NFL process, and my new company is more than just the simulations. Obviously, I'm going to give you credit, Peter, for having me on last year. Is I really started honing my kind of capping strategy. So we start with our simulation-based numbers, and out of say 30 picks we might have in the opening weekend, we'll identify the 5 to 10 that really have a high probability of hitting. And then from those 5 to 10, we whittle them down to our top 2 or 3. And those are the ones we're giving out to clients, the top 2 or 3. But also we're giving our clients, all of them as well, and our rating for each one, because, some guys like to listen to more than just me.
Right.
And they like to compare and come up with their own systems. And then for the guys who are really into numbers and data, I actually send them a spreadsheet with all our probabilities, plus or minus against the line, plus or minus 20 points on either side in half-point increments, because there are the guys out there who don't need my handicapping. They just want the raw numbers to pump into their own models.
All right. Well, it sounds phenomenal. It sounds awesome. EventDataServices.com. And again, if the proof is in the pudding from last year, then the proof is obviously there, because you had a great record with us last year. I don't remember exactly what it was, but in the middle of the season, you had like 8 or 10 consecutive wins in the NFL. Very impressive to beat those spreads. All right.
And it got a lot better after those replacement refs were gone.
Absolutely, for sure. All right, so then whatever it is that you do, at this point in the season, do you have any kind of opinions at all about, teams or players for the upcoming season?
Yeah, there are a couple unders that I like on the futures lines. I like Pittsburgh under 9. I've seen that in some of the books. I haven't seen much in the offseason. I think loss of Mike Wallace is going to hurt them a lot more than they think. He's a classic player where, even though his numbers were very impressive, last year I don't think he had a huge statistical season, but his stretching the field, that threat is a key to their offense. And so I think that loss, combined with some aging defensive players, and combined with the fact that I still see them as a third best team in the AFC North, and I don't see the third best team winning 10 games, which is what they'd have to hit to go over 9. So I like my chances of either under 9 or at least worst case scenario as a push on Pittsburgh. And I also like the Bears under 8.5. I know they had a good overall record, but if you look at their numbers, they were 2-6 against playoff teams, and the first one of those 2 was Andrew Luck's first game. And this season they have a lot of 7 or 8 playoff opponents, and then their non-playoff opponents include teams like Pittsburgh, Dallas, even Detroit, which could be better, and New Orleans. A lot of teams that have the talent to make the playoffs and could compete this year. So I think Chicago's going to, out of 11 or 12 games, maybe be lucky to win 4 of them. So even if they kick ass against the lower rated teams, I still see them at an 8-win team and under 8.5.
All right, so you're a little bit down on Pittsburgh and the Bears. Do you think that might also translate into some line value betting against them, at least in the first few weeks?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Now that you mention it, Chicago, in our preliminary data, we actually don't have a strong pick in that game. But in the Pittsburgh game, I think we got them pretty heavy against Tennessee. As much as I'm down on Pittsburgh, I'm even more down on Jake Locker.
Oh, okay. And are there any teams that where you like the overs on their team totals?
Our computer likes the overs on some of our team totals, and I don't personally like them, so I'm actually in a kind of personal anguish. Teams like Jacksonville are coming in over, and I just can't do it. So I said Jacksonville in our computer program. I don't think I mean it.
Well, it all sounds great to me, Stephen O. Event Data Services is your new company, and I'm very much looking forward to having you as a regular guest in our NFL game previews. For anyone watching this right now, tell us a little bit about what you're excited about for the upcoming year with your new company and how they can get in touch with you.
Well, they come to our website, EventDataServices.com, and there's a registration button. They can also, frankly, email me in my personal email at soh@EventDataServices.com. And we're trying to set up our business a little differently than my previous work. I'm not trying to get big. I don't want to have thousands or, in our case, millions of people with access to the information. Trying to create a nice, actually small client base of dedicated people that will be with me for a long time. And we are capping our total client base, and we still have a lot of slots available. And we'd love it if a lot of SBR viewers joined us.
All right. Sounds great. Looking forward to our videos this year, Stephen. Thanks.